Okay, this is take 3, everybody.
Hi, everyone. As you might have noticed, we have changed our name of our podcast. It's Thoughts Explored now.
Yay! We've come up with a name.
Yes, and we decided to do that because we are no longer doing the podcast regularly as we're going to sleep. Because sometimes we accidentally went to sleep, and that was the inherent problem with that model. So it's changed now. So now we can podcast to you wherever and whenever we want.
Yes, so we're excited about that. So today I just wanted to kind of talk about a topic. Last time we talked about the laws of the universe, or the 12 universal laws, and we talked about one of them, and it's kind of piqued my interest to look into a couple more of them.
The one we talked about last week, if you don't recall, is called the law of action. So
yes.
Today,
and back to that just for a second, I looked back, and there's like another thing to that law of action. It could be named inspired action, as an enhancement to
inspired
the law
action.
of action. So today we wanted to talk about the law of vibration.
Okay.
And for me, I think it's been interesting because I've been talking about that. And when I say talking about it, I think I've been writing about it for a little bit of time. And in relation to frequency, and understanding that energy operates at a frequency, and we're all operating at some frequency or another. So when we look at, just say, for example, just like, music operates at there's a frequency of music. There's a frequency that dogs are able to tune into that humans can't hear. So just like those are basic, those are very basic things. But if we wanted to think about it in terms of the universe, and vibrationally speaking, what energy are we operating at, and what energy is that attracting? I think
Are you using vibration and frequency synonymously?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for myself and our listeners. It is an interesting subject. It is, like you said, one of these 12 universal laws of the universe, or 12 universal laws. And what comes to my mind as I think about that is the ancient idea of the music of the spheres, and I'm drawing a blank now. I can't remember who developed the idea, or where we first heard in culture or literature or philosophy the music of the spheres. But that's the idea that the different planets, the different astral bodies, the different celestial bodies, all vibrate at different frequencies. And so that's how we get how many notes are there? How many, that's a corresponding, which the law of correspondence is a different law, which maybe we'll talk about another time. They all interweave themselves.
Yes.
So like the idea of the music of the spheres, or the celestial notes, the celestial tones corresponding with our physical notes on a guitar, or chords on a guitar or a piano, or the instruments that we have in our material world.
Yes.
That there is a correspondence to the celestial notes or vibrations.
Yes.
So that's kind of an interesting exploration. I might have to get back to you on the origins of that idea of the music of the spheres. And it could be ancient peoples that had that.
Yeah.
It's very old.
That is interesting. Sounds maybe a little familiar, but
that might not have been at all where you wanted to go with this podcast.
No. I think that's I like that. I think when I think about it too, I also think about since we are also vibrational beings, and we think about everything. If we think about everything in this material world that has a vibration or a frequency, and yes, I guess I am equating those two together.
Yeah.
That might not be correct, but that's just kind of how I think about it. I think about, especially now, where everybody is, where their vibrational frequencies are. And for me, like positivity and things like that are of a higher frequency, a higher vibrational quality. And some of the negative things that are out there right now are more base and of a more
Slower,
lower
heavier, sloggy, muddy.
vibrational quality. And so when I think about how I would like to go about things now, in particular with everything that's going on, it is to be of a higher vibrational quality. And so thinking about things that raise that frequency are things that I've been trying to focus on definitely within the last 2 years. And that's been an interesting journey.
What do you find raises your frequency?
I think that thinking less about myself and thinking more about how I can be helpful to other people, how I can be of service, is one of those ways. Having, recognizing, having awareness of when I'm not really being, who I want to be, accepting that, and then making those changes.
Right, I see. So kind of moving outside of your own self and thinking or focusing or spending more time on a altruistic path.
Yeah.
Or, I see.
Yeah.
Compassion outward.
Yes. And I think, part of that too is understanding that you as yourself, you're not perfect, but I don't think anybody is perfect. And I think accepting that and saying, but that's okay. Of course, I'm not, I'm not saying if I'm a serial killer, then I might need to, revisit my serial killer.
Yeah, there's a difference between saying, self-acceptance and saying that's okay versus complacency to say, oh, well, that's okay. I'm just going to continue to live here,
Right.
But that is.
And complacency is an interesting word that you bring up, because I do think that that is maybe just kind of like a neutral. I don't know if there's a neutral vibration, but that there is a vibration there, but that is not certainly inspired. Mm-hmm. And when we think about inspired, to me, that is a higher frequency as well. That is somebody or a being that is living their best,
actively,
their best self, and in
thought and in action.
Yeah, and in return, I think then that serves the greater good and the highest purpose. So that's just kind of in thinking about that and vibrational things. So, just taking it to the other thing is it's been, just doing the things around the house have been one of those things that for me have been fulfilling,
And thus created a higher frequency in your own.
I would hope so, but only you can say that as the person that lives with me.
I don't. I noticed that more engaged in the house and doing things like that. I haven't checked your personal frequency. I think I was asking you more like if you feel like that raises your frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're feeling that internally for your own self.
Yeah.
And then how that looks to me living with you and the animals is that you're more engaged and more available to the household, the yard,
Okay.
the furs, the community, definitely, with the things where you've been reaching your tentacles outward, which is great. I think it's all very positive and inspirational.
Okay. Well, do you have anything else that you would like to add about vibrational energy or raising your energy or?
Well, I think it's a really good subject, and I think that there's definitely more than 10 minutes of podcast in this one,
Well, there could be a part 2.
I know there could be part 2. We'll see. I know that one of the things that makes me feel like I raise my vibration or my frequency rises is putting myself in nature, taking myself out of cement.
Yes.
And putting myself in the woods or at the beach or those kind of things is huge to me. So I notice a really big difference, even just in our walks when we walk through the woods at some point.
Yes.
In our morning walk.
Yes.
And I don't know what that is. It's I can see the light, I can hear the sound, and my feet aren't on the cement.
Yes.
Not that I'm dissatisfied with the cement walks. But to really please my frequency,
To raise your frequency. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep.
All right. Well, on that note.
Everybody kind of think about these things for your own self.
Yes.
Like, what makes me feel like my vibration is becoming more clear or higher frequency? I also kind of have to pose a question just before we leave about how did we decide that the higher frequency is better? Like as a better thing, like as a thing to strive for, as opposed to
That's your question.
a lower frequency.
That'll be on our next podcast.
Okay, and I'll do some research before we do that. I'll see if I can find the answer to that.
Yes, I have it, but we need to end this podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, everybody have a great day.
And we are on a new host, Red Circle. So that information will be on our episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.